Yeah, we're just going to summarize some of the things that we're looking at. So the last time we were looking at box breath, box breathing, square breathing, looking at tactical breathing, and really what that meant in terms of the breathing that you were doing. Now, when I read through the comments after the last one, some of you had dysfunctional issues that I think were partially covered when we were looking at how to look at what happens when dysfunctional breathing gets in the way. When we're talking about dysfunctional breathing, when you were doing it, there was an actual obstruction, and part of that obstruction, I had it as well, which is obstructing to one half of the nasal cavity, and that can be done because your nose was broken through contact sports, like it had happened for himself and had happened for you. For some of the other guys, it was rugby, boxing, obviously contact sport. Or accidents where you're growing up, or it just happens. An awful lot of people, there's a high percentage of people have deviated septums, have nasal constriction, and that can be through infection, injury, contact, and you could have polyps, whatever it is. Seek medical attention for that. Where we're sitting at is we already know that we have it. So part of what you had been dealing with was really trying to come around with, you wanted to do box breathing, but you just couldn't do it. It was, you felt that you were struggling too hard. We had looked at one of the things to do, which is just remember that breathing is the platform that we use to get to higher performance through our breathing. It is not for us to get to box breathing. That is not what the purpose of this is. So it's easy, we just swap in other things for you. What we had done was we just had reduced the intake of breath. So instead of the breathe, the bellows of, you can see my upper chest even moving, is concentrate on the belly breath. And what that does, it stops the shoulders moving, stops the upper chest moving, focus you on nasal breathing, which is directly connected to your diaphragm. Now, one of the other things you can do, if you are just looking at, say, trickle breath, at slow breath, at shallow breath, at minimal breathing, is that when you take your breath, and it's just coming in slowly through your nose, if you want to join in with me, just very briefly, just so we'll do one set of it. So just very simply, you're taking in a breath through your nose. I know you can't see it, but trust me, I'm doing, my belly is almost inflating as my diaphragm comes down. Now, biologically, that is not what's happening, but the sensation is that the belly moves out as you're doing a lower belly, lifting out for the full portion of your rib cage. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And once it's in, just a natural breath. You're not going to full, you're not looking to burst the balloon. And once you have it in, just 3-4 seconds, just slowly letting it out. Now, you're letting them trickle out through your nose. You're just letting it out, come out slowly. That's it, with the mouth closed at all time, nasal breathing at all time. And just let it trickle out. That's it. Just letting it go slowly as you can get out. So if you were fully underwater, if you were fully immersed in water, and you were hiding, you can put whatever analogy, whatever metaphor, whatever story is going to get you through this little bit. And you're just letting those tiny bubbles, you're fully underwater, you're hiding. Enemy soldiers are looking for you, you're hiding on your children, you're in the bath, and you're having a competition with your brother, whatever it is. And just the tiniest bubble in a constant stream, chip, 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 as the bubbles slowly rise to the surface. And they're such tiny bubbles that once they hit the surface, barely make an impact on the surface of the water. Excellent. Just that slow breath. Now, for each of you, if you would just gently raise your hand, so when you feel the compulsive urge, or you've totally exhaled, you've totally expired your breath, to put your hand down so I know when we're finished and we can continue on. This is not a race, you can't see each other. I'm just doing it so that I have an indication of where we are with this part of the process. Okay, so we've done our box breathing. That's it, keep going. We've done our box breathing. We've looked at tactical breathing. It's box breathing or square breathing painted black. It is what it is. It gives you a platform. And what we're doing is we're now looking, we've looked at shallower breath. When we say shallower, just slower to get it in, maybe slightly harder. It's like breathing in through a straw. We do that on purpose for altitude type training, to reinforce that restriction. We purposely close off one nostril, so don't worry about it. Some people have to force ourselves to do it. That's it. Now just breathe normally once you've done it. Once you've reached the end of that expired breath, doesn't matter how long, it's not a competition, just keep going. Letting the air trickle out. I'm just talking to you while you're doing it, give you something to concentrate on. That's it, keep going. And as your hand goes down, just rest your hands in your laps and let your breath come under control. Fight the urge to feel that you had to over oxygenate. Okay. And as the bubbles trickle to the surface, just let yourself go. As the breath reaches the surface, all the hands are down now. What you're doing is you're looking at the control of the exhalation of the breath. And what you would do again when you come onto this phase is once it's out, it's all out, hold it out and keep it out. Okay? And what we're looking at is the development of carbon dioxide threshold training. And that really, if you do nothing else, nasal breathing and carbon dioxide threshold training starts to give you real access to higher physical performance. It also gives you access to higher mental performance, and really partly because you're having to concentrate on something. Only one object can occupy one space at one time. The laws of physics unless string theory proves us otherwise. But if you're thinking about this, then you're not thinking about that. If you're thinking about your breath, you're not thinking about your troubles. If you're thinking about your breath, you're not thinking about what your next phase of your mental, physical, emotional training is going to be. So breath is the gateway for the physical performance, for the emotional performance. Don't feel that if you can't do box breathing, as we had talked about before, if you can't do box breathing, don't feel that you now have to quit. That, my goodness, this isn't for me. I now have to do something else. I now just have to focus on exercise differentials, such as upping your cycling, incorporating, I know you can't run, but maybe going to spin classes to try and get your aerobic capacity up that way. Well, this is the one thing that will increase your VO2 max, it'll increase your carbon dioxide threshold, no matter what discipline, whether it's the rugby, whatever it is that you're going to do, okay? So again, all it is just taking a normal breath, so expanding out the belly, expanding out the ribs, allowing the diaphragm to come down, and it feels like your belly's filling up. So just allow it to fill up. And once in, so in, 1, 2, 3, normal breath, cut it off, hold it, and then let it out slowly. The bubbles trickling to the surface just above you, or whatever distance underwater you haven't had. And let that just trickle, as slow as you can go. You get that out to 40 seconds, 60 seconds, 80 seconds. If you can get it out to 2 minutes, you're a rock star. Get it out, let it go out, and as soon as it's out, cut it off. It can be different whatever time of the day you do it. It could be different on Monday to Tuesday, Monday to Friday, morning to evening, after you've eaten, before you've exercised, when you've woken up, gone to sleep. It is just a marker for you to look at. And it is the exercise in itself has utility. No, there is no preferred time of the day for you to do this. All day, every day. I wouldn't recommend this one in the car because you start to push out to the extremes of your breathing. Don't do it when you're swimming. But yeah, any time of the day, all day, do it in the morning, do it at night, do it before you go to bed, do it when you wake up, do it when you're doing the dishes, do it when you're making your dinner, do it when you're talking to kids, watching a movie, reading a book, all of those. There's no end to this. This one's slightly different in that it's slightly harder to do when you're doing high performance, high impact training. If you run full tilt, really, you want to be exhaling for so long and then holding in an exhale breath. This is one where you really have to have a little bit more time, when your body's under full control, when something else might happen, when you lose dizziness, when blood pressure changes, and you may have to fall over and induce a faint in yourself. We don't want that. But just throughout the day, just do it constantly. And what you'll find that over time, over a prolonged period, this simple introduction of dedicated breath practice can change how you breathe. Okay, it can change all your functions. And we'll just leave that one there. We'll probably come back to that. We'll do a bit of that before we finish off. We'll do some box breathing and we'll cycle through some of the other breath methods, and then we'll look at packaging them into a performance breathing package for you. Okay, like this.